family and friends are relieved, in one sense, by the judge's decision, although it was expected. I think that having it happen certainly is a vindication in many ways of what happened on that particular night, at least as it relates to now. I think it has always been clear from our point of view that the issue of the taser was a contrived defense. That defense only came about later as police practice experts tried to figure out how this officer could have done this, and they came up with this defense, and that has become sort of the mantra of this case. But there was no evidence in any way his having made that particular state of mind, made that statement, particularly as the case developed, when we knew that he had made other statements that was contrary to the taser comment, and more importantly, he never acted as if he had made a mistake. He never said that. Even at the time, even the "oh my God," there was no "I made a mistake," that I didn't mean to do this. It could have been any number of reasons, but it certainly wasn't "I made a mistake and picked the wrong weapon." Now, and so from my point of view, this presentation has really been extraordinarily important because it gave a window into the defense presentation at a very early stage. And even though we suspected that it was going to be the defense, seeing it now was very important, particularly as it relates to the credibility of the officers. Their credibility was shredded. Their efforts at trying to exaggerate and create a form of chaos really was not consistent with the evidence. And then to try to suggest that Oscar brought about the cause of his own demise really was totally inconsistent with who Oscar was, what he was doing on that platform, and trying to be a peacemaker to others, and essentially being manhandled by the officers and assaulted in ways that was unjustified. And then to even suggest, as before he was getting shot, that he himself was resisting when the videotape and the picture clearly shows, as the witnesses that testified and told me before, that his hands were behind his back. And the clear, deliberate, conscious act on the part of Mehserle, whether he panicked or not, and that his acts were consistent with a person who intended to do what exactly he did. And so from my point of view, the only way that this could have come out was that of a murder holding order. I had no doubt that it was going to happen. I thought all of this other evidence that was coming in from the defense was not relevant on the issue, and including today's testimony, because you needed state-of-mind evidence. And the state-of-mind evidence could only come realistically from the defendant. And if he wants to raise an imperfect self-defense, that is to say he believed the person had a gun, he has to do that. But the evidence itself clearly does not show that, and it clearly does not show that he made any efforts at all to create danger for the police officer. So from my point of view, I would just say that the family members have suffered a lot. They've been in a lot of pain, having spent a lot of time with them, and their friends and the community all have suffered because for them this was a case of unadulterated murder, and it was very important for this holding order to occur so that there can be some sense that this community and frankly the African-American communities around the world can have a sense that this young African-American young man did not die in such a way that there's no acknowledgement by the judicial system that something was wrong and that something occurred that should not have occurred. And frankly, he should not be dead. And that's the tragedy of all this. So it was important that the judicial system, at least in the first instance, acknowledged it. I recognize that the road will be long and hard later on. There have been many more motions and many more activities. The defense obviously has the right to present their case in as aggressive a way as they can. But at least from this day, there's a public acknowledgement by the judicial system that the Oscar Grant's death was wrongfully taken from him, and that the defense that's been articulated so far is a contrived defense, that there's no evidence and that there was any desire to reach for a taser, and we've all been done a disservice because it was a disinformation campaign, it was a misdirection, taking us off the path of what actually happened there, and injecting a level of discourse that was not supported by the evidence. So in that sense, we are very pleased about what happened today. It is only the first step. We recognize that. The family is suffering, but they will remain vigilant. And I would hope that that the community at large responds in a positive way to this decision today, because it's important for everyone to appreciate and understand, like it or not, that this is the system that we have, and we have to respond to it in an orderly way. And we think the DA did a very positive thing. I think the lawyers did a good job in terms of at least doing what you're supposed to do, and that is develop the evidence. And what we saw here is the efforts on the part of the defense to put forth officers that they got a chance to be cross-examined for all of us to see that there really was an effort to cover up and to contrive and to protect Officer Mehserle in the conduct, and in many ways protect all of themselves. It wasn't just Mehserle. They were all trying to protect themselves, try to suggest that they acted in a very professional manner and that what they did was positive. One point of fact is, as I've said before, this case only happened because of the over-aggressiveness and unprofessionalism of Officer Peroni, because nothing was going on in a negative way until he grabbed Michael Greer and started pulling him by his hair, and the young man who was sitting there all reacted to it, and the other people as well. And so the chaos that they talked about was created by them, and then by the officers, and then when they ultimately engaged in the conduct that caused Oscar Grant's death, then they wanted to try to suggest that somehow he caused his own death, which was ridiculous and offensive to what happened.